Part 1. The Quran and Presuppositions of Science. 1. The universe has a comprehensible rational structure. Science aims to discover nature's law and theories by following empirical and experimental procedures. Scientists thus assume that the universe has a comprehensible rational structure. For the universe to be comprehensible, it has to have regularities that can be comprehended by the human mind. In other words, it has to have laws. If the universe were disordered or chaotic, or if the regularities of the universe exceeded human comprehension, science would not have been possible. Although widely assumed, the rationality and comprehensibility of the universe is a profound mystery. According to Albert Einstein, the eternal mystery of the world is that it is comprehensible. The fact that it is comprehensible is a miracle. What Einstein declares a miracle, most other scientists take for granted. While all of their work assumes that nature has a comprehensible structure, most scientists are not aware of their assumption. They have conducted and will continue to conduct their studies without noticing such intriguing questions as, why is nature based on laws and not on chaos? And how is it possible that the universe is rational and comprehensible? Whether aware of this presupposition or not, when scientists study the universe, they must assume that the universe has a rational and comprehensible structure. If they were to reject this presupposition, it would be meaningless for them to attempt to understand the universe. How could you comprehend the universe if it were incomprehensible? The Quran grounds the nature of the universe in the nature of the God who created it. According to the Quran, God, who is rational and mighty, has created the universe. The divine attributes of omniscience, alim, and wisdom, hakim, scattered throughout the Quran, entail that God is a rational being. Although disputes on some issues have arisen between the various sects of Islam, there has been no disputing God's rationality. The Quranic worldview maintains that the universe is comprehensible because it was created by a rational God. The idea of a rational universe makes possible observations and experiments with the aim of comprehending the structure of the universe. If the universe is created by a rational God, we should expect to find rational beings who can comprehend that universe as well. In the 17th century, Descartes, one of the founders of modern science and modern philosophy, deliberately borrowed the term law for the natural regularities he and others were discovering from the medieval legal use. Both sorts of laws, he argued, were decrees of God. In order to avoid appeal to the divine, some naturalist philosophers reject the use of the word law. There is no reason from a naturalist perspective that the universe should have a rational and comprehensible structure. On the assumption of naturalism, the universe is as or is more likely to be entirely devoid of order as it is to be ordered. Since naturalism implies nothing about the structure of the universe, the naturalist's belief in the rational structure of the universe is ungrounded. Naturalistic perspectives on the laws of nature can be grouped under two headings. The first is the regularity account of natural laws. David Lewis, Stuart Mill, Frank Ramsey, and John Ehrman are representatives of this account. According to this view, what we call the laws of nature are just descriptions of the regularities in the universe. Laws are the descriptions of those regularities rather than the cause of them. According to this view, we can talk about the law electrons have negative charge because all observed electrons have negative electric charge. This law is then only the description of the regularity that all the electrons in the universe are negatively charged, and no explanation is needed why the electrons are negatively charged. It has been claimed that regularity account is the most reasonable description of laws of nature within naturalism because the theory only refers to those regularities that do not go beyond physical universe. What is the explanation of the regularities in the universe? Why is the universe full of regularities? There is no answer for these according to the advocates of regularity account. This viewpoint offers no deep explanation for these regularities, but rather only replies that nature is this way and that is it. However, it is intellectually unsatisfying to explain the incredible regularities of the laws of nature in the universe by simply pointing at coincidence. According to David Armstrong, a person who believes that the regularities in nature are all coincidences can actually believe in anything. Philosopher Norman Swartz, who supports the regularity account of laws, is also aware of the cosmic coincidence problem and defines the problem as follows. There are probably more than 10 to the 60th power electrons in the universe, and all of them, we may suppose, have precisely the same electrical charge. Now, although I am prepared to allow that 5 red cars in a row might be dismissed as a coincidence, can I allow that 10 to the 60th power items with precisely the same electrical charge is likewise a coincidence? One thing we might do is swallow deeply and say, nothing at all accounts for this fact. Faced with the prospect of having to say this, many persons find the sheer contingency of the actual world utterly fantastic. If it wasn't God, a super Henry Ford, who designed all this and saw to it that all of these countless particles are qualitatively identical, then something has to account for it. That 10 to the 60th power things should all be alike in their properties cannot rationally be deemed just a coincidence. By stretching his view, a naturalist may claim that the laws of nature are the necessary relations between the universals. David Armstrong, Fred Dresky, and Michael Tooley advocate this approach. As an example of this account, the reason for the regularity, all the irons are conductive, is the necessary relation between the universal of metallicity and the universal of conductivity. Since iron has the property of being metal, and since the universal of metallicity is necessarily connected to the universal of conductivity, iron is necessarily conductive. But one may reasonably ask, why are these universals related to each other? Consider laws of physics, like Newton's law of motion, F equals ma, and ideal gas law, PV equals nRT, which are expressed by simple mathematical formulas. According to this second naturalist approach, these mathematical relationships are expressions of the necessary relations among corresponding universals. For example, the second law of Newton describes relations between force, acceleration, and mass. Why are these relations expressed by simple mathematical expressions rather than in other complicated ways? There are no answers to these within naturalism. This, according to naturalism, is a cosmic coincidence. As a result, according to both naturalistic approaches to the laws of nature, the rational structure of the universe is a cosmic coincidence. But it is not a satisfactory explanation to claim that universals are expressed via simple mathematical formulas by sheer coincidence. As a result, within the naturalist ontology, for both approaches of naturalism, it is a cosmic coincidence that the universe has a rational, comprehensible structure with regularities that are comprehensible, while naturalism gives no reason to expect for a universe with a comprehensible structure. Theism does. Belief in creation by a rational God leads one to expect a comprehensible universe. Moreover, the Quranic claim that this world is a trial place for human beings likewise requires a rational structure for the universe. This trial process includes peoples having a free will to choose between good and evil. One of the most important claims the Quran makes is that people are responsible for their actions. This verse is an example where this issue is mentioned. He is the one who created death and life in order to try you, to see who of you are best of deed. He is mighty, forgiving. The trial place perspective not only answers existential questions, but also inspires feelings of responsibility and shapes believers' actions. It may seem, at first glance, hard to understand the relation between morality and existential questions, on the one hand, and the universe having a rational structure on the other. But only laws of nature can provide a rational structure, which serve to assess the consequences of our actions. Only within such an arena with predictable consequences can we assume responsibility for our actions. For example, if someone pushes a person over a cliff, we can easily decide that the pusher has committed a wrong action. But in a world without laws of nature, people who are pushed over a cliff sometimes blow back or fly upward. Sometimes they feel more refreshed, or sometimes get pleasure from the fall with no harm done to their bodies. In such an environment, the pusher would not be responsible for his behavior since he could not have predicted the result. Let us qualify. The moral necessity of the laws of nature does not mean that these laws must be deterministic. The laws of nature can have a probabilistic structure, but this probabilistic structure should not preclude good but not infallible predictions of the outcomes of our actions. The probabilities sufficiently correlate events and causes to make good predictions possible. A universe that includes such probabilities is still rational and comprehensible. The Quran, then, rationally grounds one's belief in rational and comprehensible structure of the universe because, first, the creator of the universe is a rational being, and second, our understanding of the outcomes of our actions in this trial world is possible only in such a universe. Thus, the Quran supports the presupposition that the universe has a comprehensible, rational structure, which is a prerequisite for scientific endeavors. The naturalist, on the other hand, has no rational ground to support this presupposition.